summarize it, it's up to you. Okay. If you don't know how to summarize it, then read it.
It is a well-known fact that the human rights is being seriously violated in North Korea and is resulting in numerous refugees. To look at a simple overview of the international action towards the North Korea's human rights violation, it goes back to 2005 when the UN General Assembly has first adopted the resolution for North Korean human rights. In 2007, the UN General Assembly adopted the draft resolution entitled Situation of Human Rights in the Democratic People's Republic, and expressed its very serious concern at continuing reports of systematic, widespread, and grave violation of civil, political, economic, social, and cultural rights in North Korea.
Stop. Can you go to the next paragraph? South Korea.
South Korea is an adjacent country and socially, politically correlated country with North Korea. A coordinated effort is expected from outside and within the country. Although a great number and most of North Korean refugees do move to China, I would like to focus on how South Korea is treating their refugees.
Okay. So how is South Korea treating the refugees?
Overall, like in most of the newspapers and the government says that they treat them very well, and they kind of categorize them to three parts, and they kind of first for the 3 weeks. For 3 weeks, they see if they're not spies of North Korea, since we are still in war, and if they're seen as not spies, they go to Hana 1, which is they have a education, and they could settle down in Korea, and how they could live themselves. Have a living in Korea, but I have seen a news article about a serious human rights violation of the refugees in Korea. When North Korean refugees first arrive to South Korea, they are actually trapped in a cell alone until they are proved not to be spies and shown to give no harm to the society. So I think the human rights are violated because they cannot see their family, or they cannot visit to the cell, and they're totally trapped there. And there's also very serious verbal abuses and even sexual abuses to women refugees. So the situation is quite serious than what we really see, and this is kind of like the backstory of how South Korean government is treating the North Korean refugees.
That's fine. So you see the issue, right? So the topic is what? So the topic is how the South Korean government is treating who? Come on! Board it. What's the topic? Right, North Korean refugees. Very simple, right? And she's saying they get a lot of benefits, but then they also get a lot of very special, like investigations. Okay? Now we'll check grammar. Also, the other thing was, whenever you write an essay from my class, you always want to say what?
I wasn't sure about what topic is this.
Then say like, well, you get my emails, right? Yeah, the readings are in the emails. And also, if you don't know, say, oh, a professor emailed me. Okay? I always love getting student emails. Okay? So the point is, I want you to link it to this week's reading. You cannot link it to some other week's readings. But I want you to link it to some readings. Okay? And so I thought we can help this talk. Can you read this? The South Korean government.
The South Korean government treats North Korean refugees either as potential spies and national security threat, or as no rational siblings. What would
Archie Boogie.
say?
Right, he's the author for this week's reading. Right? So that way, like by looking at this case, we can link it to different concepts in our class, right? So for example, like so the bad treatment is why? Because why do they put them in a cell and ask them so many questions? Like, are you a spy? Okay? Why?
Because there are spies in South Korea, North
Right.
Korean spies.
Right, because some of the North Korean refugees are spies. Okay? And according to like the realist theories that we read, such as Ken Walls, states are always competing with each other, for survival. Okay? And so the idea is that right now, North Korea, South Korea, we're technically in a state of what? War. Okay? And in the past, has the North Korean spies, did they do bad things to the state? Did they do bad things? Can you think of any examples where spies came to South Korea and did anything bad? Think of Park Geun-hye's mom. Does she have a mom? The president? Does she have a mother living? No! Why are you nodding your head? Do like this. Okay. Don't always nod at whatever I say. You're not a dog. Okay? Be critical. What happened to the mom? Yeah, she was assassinated by North Korean spies. Okay? They were aiming at the president. The president represents the state. You see? And so, so the survival of the state is at stake. So you do what? So so you have to do whatever means necessary to protect the state, even if it goes against liberal principles. Okay. So so that's one link we can make, right? But the other link is that, but these North Koreans, they also get special benefits, right? What are the special benefits? Okay. You too. What are the special benefits that North Koreans get compared to other refugees? Okay, you three. Okay, do you know? 하지마마시대. Do North Koreans get special treatment compared to people from other countries? Yes. Because, if you're from like Bangladesh, can you just come to can you just come to South Korea as a refugee? No. I mean, really exceptional circumstance. Okay? You have to show that you are persecuted. You need evidence, right? But then if you're from North Korea, you don't need any document. You just have to say that I'm from North Korea, and you get automatic South Korean citizenship. And then plus you get all these like special benefits, right? They give you apartment, they teach you how to go shopping, and depending on your value, you can study at university. Why? Why is it that South Korean government treat people from North Korea different than people from other countries?
Because we feel that we have an obligation because we are kind of brothers.
Yes, we're blood brothers. Didn't you ever cut your wrist and do this? Okay, yes, it's like blood solidarity. People used to you do blood, but other people they just do spit. You don't want to, because the point is that you have to share bodily fluid. Okay, share bodily fluid, then we're brother and sister. Nobody wants to be my brother. Okay. But you understand, right? So this is a very ancient way of thinking. That we're all united because we all have the same what? Blood. You touched my spit. You're my sister now. Okay. Anyway. And then because you have the same blood, you get special benefits. Do you understand? You have special access. What countries use what? And that is called the Latin term is I forget the term, just res. But there's a term that says if you're the same blood, you get these automatic legal benefits, right? Think of I think Germany used to be that way, right? Okay. I'm just saying in general, okay? How about Poland? Is Poland like that? If you're Okay, right. Did you hear that? So Emily's saying that it's the same thing in Poland. If you have So they have special visa compared to other people? Okay. So Emily's saying that if you have Polish blood, you have special visa to come to Poland. Okay? Germany used to be like that. I'm not sure anymore. Okay? I don't know if Swedish people are like that. Do you like no? Okay. I don't know about Sweden. But historically both countries were like that. If you're the same blood, you had special visa, special access. Okay? But how does that link to Archie Boogie and Help, right? They're saying we should what is a model that they promote? They promote the model of what? Yeah, cosmopolitanism, right? Cosmopolitan democracy. Okay? And what does it mean to be cosmopolitan? The cosmopolitan is I think it's a Greek Latin word, right? It means you're a citizen of what? You're a citizen of Korea? No, you're a citizen of what? The what? If you're of what? Yeah, the world. I can't hear you. Did you say Egypt? Okay, no, you're not a citizen of Egypt. Okay? You're a citizen of the world. We're all, it's like universal brotherhood and sisterhood, right? And so, if Korea was truly cosmopolitan, then how would it treat North Koreans? How would it be different than today? If it was true, yeah? Well, now think in terms of the refugees, okay? The point is that you treat the people from North Korea like what? Like everybody else. You treat them equally, okay? So it means that you're not gonna put them in jail for 3 days, but it also means that you're not gonna give them any special benefits, extra benefits. You will give them the same benefits you give to every other refugee. You understand? And so there would be a cosmopolitan model for treating North Korean refugees. So you can link this, to the readings, either from realism or to cosmopolitanism. Okay? Okay. That was one good example. Okay, thank you. Yay. Okay, that was Miss Pang. Okay. The second paper I got was from is Lee Ju-young here. Yay. Come on up. This class is right. Okay, alright. Now, what's your paper about? The title is what?
The title is The Present and Future of East Asia in the Flow of Globalization.
Okay. And so Archie Boogie and Hill talks about cosmopolitanism, right? And he says, if you use liberal, democratic, cosmopolitan principles, many different people, many different nations can unite, right? Now, is that going to happen in Asia? Yes or no? You say probably what?
Probably not.
Probably not, right? Why not?
I think.
Why not? Why can't Asia be, cosmopolitan? Because why? And you said there's what are these problems, right? Oh, by the way, whenever you give me a quotation, can you read this for me? In the flow of
globalization, the pace of globalization of East Asia is slower than Europe. The fundamental reason that the unity of regions doesn't take concrete shape in the place are the political interest of Northeast Asia, which is prime mover of unity. And due to political interest, the low cognitive level of unity of regions.
I don't know. I have no idea what you're talking about. Okay. So you need to give me the source, so I know what the author is trying to say. Okay. So this paragraph was confusing, but this paragraph was a little bit more clear. Okay. So you're basically saying, in your own words, right, that Asians are divided because they have all these problems with what? They have problems with what? The one was history, right?
Yeah, problems.
There's historical problems, and there's also problems with national what? You said national sentiments.
아, 예.
Remember your own essay, okay? I don't want to remember it for you, okay? Again, especially for readers who are not Korean, you need to give examples of both, okay? So what's an example of like national sentiment? What's an example of history, okay? That is dividing different countries. What's an example?
Distortion of history and then comfort woman problem with Japan.
Right. So probably the biggest historical issue dividing like Korea and Japan is the comfort woman. Okay. And there's also things like national sentiment. There's another issue. There was another emotional issue that happened with the newspaper, right? Sanghae Shinbun. Is it called Sanghae Shinbun or Sanghae Shinbun? Sanghae. Okay? Because from the South Korean government point of view, the Sanghae Shinbun dishonored who? It destroyed the honor of who? Of the... Come on, which politician in Korea? Come on, the woman, yeah, Park Geun-hye, right? Right. Does everybody know about that? Okay. Who knows what happened with Sanghae Shinbun? Okay, nobody knows. One person knows. Can you come up and explain? All right. Woo. You can't go out and come this way. Okay. We have too many chairs. All right. Why don't you explain briefly what happened, and then he can elaborate. What happened? Yes.
Actually, I don't understand fully about that. So I think
Okay, he says, I don't know, so can you explain what happened? Come here. The camera has to know you and love you. Okay? Alright. What's your name?
Taro.
Everybody say, Heitaro, or we can say, everybody say, Konnichiwa! Konnichiwa, Taro. Okay, so what happened? So, what did the Shinbun do? Because the chief editor, he wrote an article, and he talked about these rumors, right? And the rumor said what? That Park Geun-hye was doing what? Do you remember?
Yeah.
Okay, anyway, I do the main things and then you can respond. So, you know, like the Sewol disaster, right? So during the Sewol disaster, the president was like absent for like 6 or 7 hours, okay? And so people made all these rumors where she was during that 6 hours when the Sewol boat fell, okay? And one of the rumors was what? That she was...
Sankei, write down, maybe she met another man.
Yes, like a secret boyfriend.
Yeah.
Right. You know, during this national disaster, right? And so the South Koreans, the government was very what? Government was very what? Happy or angry? Yeah, very angry, right? So what did the prosecutor do? The prosecutors put him on trial. Do you see? And they banned his travel visa. So he cannot leave the country. He's a prisoner in Korea. Okay? And then so do you think that's an example of like nationalism? Yeah, maybe it's an example of nationalism, right? Because he was the only newspaper writer to be tried because of because many people were talking about these rumors, right? But he was the only one that's been tried. And so this is causing a lot of nationalist sentiment in both South Korea and Japan. Many Japanese are happy or angry that he's been tried.
Maybe many Japanese no interest.
Okay.
Yeah.
So many Japanese don't care. Okay.
Yeah.
But some Japanese might be a little angry, right? Right. Because why? Because
Not the maybe,
Press.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, freedom of the press. And also, like, anytime a foreign government, tries to, like, try and imprison your own citizen, that causes a lot of nationalistic backlash. Right? You understand, right? And so this is stoking a lot of nationalist sentiments in both South Korea and Japan. Okay. Anyway, and also there's a big issue of the comfort women, right? Right. And so, and again, like, you want to think about how things like history and nationalism undermines cosmopolitanism. Okay. And what we can do to make Korea and Japan more cosmopolitan. Do you see? And then one of the links that I gave you was that if you go to the back, blah blah blah. Okay. Okay. Now, you're saying that in the last paragraph you said Asians, we need to change our consciousness, right? We need to be more cosmopolitan. But you don't tell me how, and you don't link this to history or nationalism. You need a stronger link, okay? And so so that's why, again, I always tell you to discuss a specific example, okay? Such as comfort women, okay? Now, in Japan, has anyone heard of Asahi Shimbun? Okay, one. Okay, you heard of Asahi Shimbun, right? It's a liberal or conservative. They're what? Liberal or conservative? They're very what? Kind of a liberal newspaper, right? Very progressive newspaper.
Yeah, in Japan. So
Right, in Japan.
very light.
So Asahi, right? But Yomiuri is conservative. Asahi is more liberal, right? Okay. Anyway, so there are these two big newspapers. The Yomiuri is very conservative. They're very Japanese nationalism. Asahi's, they want to be more cosmopolitan. Okay? And one of their projects is they want Japan to apologize and give compensation to the comfort women. Okay? But then recently there was I think a couple of months ago, there was a big scandal. Because, has anyone heard of the 1993 Kono statement? Yeah. Koreans know, right? In the 1993, the cabinet secretary of Japan officially apologized to the comfort women, saying, we have evidence that some Japanese soldiers actually kidnapped, the Korean women, forced them to be comfort women, and because there was government complicity, the government has to officially apologize. So they did in 1993. Okay, but recently, and the evidence, a lot of the evidence for the Kono statement came from the Asahi Shimbun, because they interviewed people like this guy named Seiji. What's his name? Seiji Yoshida. Okay? Seiji Yoshida said, I was a soldier. I was based in Jeju-do. Okay? That's where Emily went. Okay? And he said that when I was a soldier in Jeju-do, I helped kidnap hundreds of Korean women. Okay? So this caused huge nationalist sentiment in South Korea. And it also caused Japanese government to be very embarrassed and sorry. And so they officially apologized, and they set up this public-private fund, the Asia Women's Fund, to give a lot of money back. But the Korean government said it's not enough. We want, Anyway, so. But recently, the Asahi Shimbun found out that this guy, was it true? Was he telling the truth? Oh, okay. Well, basically, the newspaper found out that he was not telling. There was no evidence to back up his claim. Do you see? So later they actually sent some reporters to Jeju-do to ask the old women, were they actually kidnapped? And they said no. There was no situation like that. We have no record. We have no memory of that. Do you understand? So the point is that this has caused the most powerful liberal newspaper in Japan to lose face. They have no credibility anymore. Do you understand? And it's kind of like, because it's almost like it's kind of like what we talked about the euro, right? An improvement. sometimes leaders, they believe in something so much, they do it even when there's no evidence to back them up. Okay? So the European leaders that pushed the single currency, the euro, even when all the economists said this is a bad idea, right? And the Asahi Shimbun, they published all these articles that said like Korean women were kidnapped when the evidence was not there. And so, because again, they really wanted Japan to be, to apologize, to be liberal, to make amends. Do you see? But if you don't have, unless you have real evidence and data to back it up, there's just gonna have a nationalist backlash. Because a lot of the Japanese now they feel betrayed by Asahi Shimbun, by all the liberals, and so there's very little chance that Japan is going to give more money to the comfort women. Same thing with the euro. The euro caused this huge nationalist backlash, and so there's very little chance that Europe is going to accept more countries like Turkey. Okay? Because people are just sick and tired of euro. Many Japanese are sick and tired of comfort women. Okay? And so I thought, this is a good example. Yes, there are historical problems, nationalist problems, but what can you do to make it more cosmopolitan? Maybe one argument is that you need to be smart. Don't make arguments that have no evidence. Don't make the Japanese government apologize for something that you lack evidence for. Maybe this did happen, right? Maybe there were some women who were kidnapped by army soldiers. But you need to provide real concrete evidence to persuade the Japanese government. If you provide false evidence, then you're just going to lose all credibility. Okay? Okay. Anyway, so that was paper number 2. Arigato. Arigato. Okay. Yay. Thank you very much. Okay. Alright, let's move on. Okay. Nidia. Okay. Don't be late. But, we love you. Alright. Okay. Nidia? Yes. You just want to read? Okay. Her writing was very pretty. You can read. Over the years,
there have been an increasing number of countries adopting a democratic system of government within states. The notion of such democratic system is not new and has been developed since 507 before Christ in ancient Greece.
you can just say BC.
Okay. Over the centuries, the basic democratic system whereby citizens are guaranteed the right to participate in influencing the decision-making of its governments have developed tremendously into many different types of democracy. While the adoption of the democratic system is generally within states, Daniel Archibugi and David Hill proposed the idea of cosmopolitan democracy, which attempts to apply some principles, values, and procedures of democracy to the global political system by aiming to achieve democracy beyond borders. While democracy beyond borders might sound like a good idea for international peace and security, cosmopolitan democracy might not be feasible in a complex international realm and has its inherent limitations, as we will discuss in this essay. So the structure will be like there is this argument brought by the author, and then I will counter.
Why don't you go to the yellow highway? Okay. So the author says blah blah blah, but your main claim is what?
Although cosmopolitan democracy might be a good theory, the lack of accountability and representation of the group leaders, undermined by the corruption issue worldwide, makes its implementation worldwide less effective and
Stop. Do you understand? She's saying that, yeah, cosmopolitan sounds like a good theory, but too many governments are what? Too many governments are what? Yeah, they're corrupt. Okay, go on. Just summarize the rest, or just read. Okay. Learn how to summarize in your own words. Okay. When you go out and interview for jobs, you're not gonna read your resume. Okay. You have to learn to discuss your resume in your own words. Discuss your ideas in your own words. I want you to get a job. Okay. All right.
decorative purpose, and they play marginal roles in the society because all governments don't easily accept encroachment on their national sovereignty. They also claim that IOs, international organizations, will become core institutions of a cosmopolitan democracy rather than mere instruments of national governments, because they are able to expand their authority and legitimacy worldwide. However, I was saying, in many cases, NGOs do take place of the states, either by performing services that an inept or corrupt government is not doing, or stepping in for field states. And also especially in the less developed nation like Bangladesh, NGOs have taken role of its government to provide public goods and look after the poor in state. And because of such significant role, NGOs might attribute to an improvement in the poverty rates, to improve the poverty rate in Bangladesh from 70% to 42%. Also, for the developed nations, the governments usually have strong international influence and controlling power in decision-making of many IOs, such as the United Nations, whereby all its permanent members have veto power, namely Russia, US, UK, France, and China. They are all considered to be relatively developed as compared to its big fellow neighbors. So IOs are still tools by national governments to establish their authority and legitimacy worldwide.
Okay, stop. So, look here. Okay. So, good job interview or task assignment. You have to let the audience needs to understand what your main point is. What's your main point?
There are a lot of points.
Yeah, but what is your central point? You say you cannot, when you do job interview, you cannot say I'm 100 things. You have to tell me like one or two things that the audience will remember about you. Okay. So what is the main point of your paper? Well, because you're saying that the problem is what? The main problem is that, what we cannot have cosmopolitan democracy because why? Governments are too corrupt, right? Well, that was one of your problems, right?
The first one, yeah. The second point is more to the government has influence on the IOs. That's why.
You have to make sure that all your points connect. You're not doing like a whole summary. Essay means that you're making a comprehensive argument, okay? Holistic argument. So you have to make so on a good essay, everything has to connect. So for example, if you're saying that the problem is corruption, government corruption, then tell me, is like NGOs and international organizations, is that a solution or not a solution? You understand? So for example, how can NGOs help people fight corruption? How? Can you think of any example where an NGO might help people fight corruption? What are some examples of NGOs, non-governmental organizations, that monitors government? Come on, what's a really simple example? We just talked about this, konnichiwa. Yeah, media newspapers. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, they're non-governmental. Yes, they're an organization. Organization is three or more people organized for a purpose. So NGOs is a very broad term. Right? It's not just communities. Okay, it encompasses a wide variety of institutions, and there's some debate whether it should include business organizations. People like new things. Businesses are very important. Facebook, Twitter. Okay, and so you can say there's a wide array of non-governmental organizations who can help monitor governments, fight corruption. Okay, newspapers, Facebook, Twitter. Okay, and there's actually some NGOs that are designed specifically to monitor corruption, and they rank governments based on how open and transparent they are. Do you see? On the other hand, NGOs can also be criticized as being what? As being some NGOs are also like, some NGOs are also corrupt. They're also not transparent. Okay? And so NGOs can help governments be more transparent, but governments can also monitor NGOs, and NGOs can monitor each other. Okay? So I'm just saying that if you really believe that corruption is a big obstacle for cosmopolitan democracy, then think of what can we do to fight corruption. You understand? Right. And then anyway, so that's argument number one, right? A different essay might talk about why corruption is bad for cosmopolitan democracy. Okay. Why is corruption bad for the forming of European Union? Okay. For those from Europe, people are always complaining about corruption, right? Is that something that undermines support for the European project? What's an example of corruption that might undermine support for the European project? Well, corruption is an example of corruption is when people do not follow the rules, right? They take advantage of the rules so they can use it. And so, I don't know. I think one example that I hear a lot because I study a lot of these anti-multicultural groups. It's like asylum seekers. Okay. Asylum seekers is supposedly they come to seek what? Asylum, right? Because supposedly they're being persecuted by the government back home, right? And so because of especially what happened to Jews during World War II, the European governments have a long tradition of accepting all asylum seekers who are the refugees. Okay? We don't want what happened to the Jews to happen here. Okay? And so the European Union has all these rules for asylum seekers, right? All countries in the EU actually have to provide some level of protection for asylum seekers. But some people are what? Some of these people are what? They're breaking the rules. How? Because they're not really what? Right, they just want to go to a rich country, either for the jobs or the benefits. There's a controversy, right? And so there was this big I remember reading this controversy because there were a bunch of refugees, and then at first they went to Italy and Europe, but they refused to be fingerprinted in Greece and Italy. Why? Because if you're fingerprinted in Italy or Greece, those are poor countries, you get less what? You get less benefits, right? So instead of following the rules and being fingerprinted at the first country that you enter, they said no. They clenched their fist and they wouldn't open their fist until they went up to rich countries like Sweden. Good for you. Let's all go to Sweden and get fingerprinted there. Okay, we can move to her house. Okay. It's too cold. Okay. Do you understand? But the point is that when many refugees do that, okay, they claim political asylum. They refuse to get fingerprinted at the first country. This leads to a lot of resentment. Okay, it leads to all these nationalist parties who are anti-European Union. Do you see? Did you see some of that in Sweden? This kind of nationalist backlash against asylum seekers, or you guys? It's people who seek asylum. They claim that they're politically persecuted, and so that's how they get visa. Okay. Right. Right. Okay. That's fine. Sure. So it remains an open question. How many of these people are actually lying? Okay. But I remember reading in the Korean newspapers that a lot of the people who lie are actually the North Korean refugees. Because the North Korean refugees, they come to South Korea and then they have South Korean citizenship, but then they don't like living in South Korea, so they move to these like Sweden or Canada or United States, and they claim that, oh, I am fleeing political persecution. Do you see? And so what? Yeah, go ahead. Wanna come up or just talk loud? There was an issue. What? Okay. Why don't you come up? This sounds interesting. Okay. Tell me about those. Tell me about those Syrian refugees. Okay. Okay. What's your name?
My name is Peter. I'm from the Netherlands.
Sit nearby. Okay.
Yeah, this one. There was I think an issue back a while ago in Europe. There were some Syrian people. They were seeking refuge in some European countries, but Italy, they rebelled a bit against it because they said, yeah, there are too many Syrian people wanting to seek refuge in Italy. So they asked if some other countries could take them instead of Italy. So those countries responded that that is the policy. Like they cannot intervene with it.
Okay.
Because that they have their own policy and they should just how to say it, handle theirs.
So it's like it's your problem, you handle it?
Yes.
Okay.
What? The Netherlands did what? I cannot remember.
But I think that's the closest. So
Okay.
so I think that's a thing. Right?
Sure. Okay. Well, the bottom line is that, people like Archibald and Hell, they argue for, cosmopolitan democracy, where everybody has these individual rights, okay? Such as a right to seek asylum, okay? But maybe this paper shows that, along with rights, you also need what? For democracy to work, along with individual rights, you also need what? You also need, democratic theories where say rights needs to go along with obligations, virtues, okay? And one of the obligations is to tell the truth, to be honest. Are you really running away from political persecution from Kim Jong-un, or are you, or is it just hard, or just don't like working the 3D jobs in South Korea, okay? And because if people do not tell the truth, if they're not honest, then it undermines this kind of social contract, leads to a lot of resentment, and people are less willing to give you rights. Okay? And so that's when the cosmopolitan project breaks down. Okay? And so maybe this paper shows that maybe that is a big limitation of Archibald and Hell, that they're just talking about individual rights, that maybe they're not really talking about the individual obligations. That makes democracy work. Okay? So again, use these specific examples to generate interesting arguments as to how and why cosmopolitan democracy can work. Okay. On a final note, Emily wrote me a paper about the Arabic Spring and how come it didn't work or not work. Okay, thank you, Media. Come on up. Yes, that's you. Okay.
Have you read it?
I read it.
Oh, yeah.
But go ahead, explain. Either read or summarize in your words.
Yeah. No, I wrote about that because they're talking about different kind of agents to make democracy happen,
And I just thought that the Arabic Spring was a perfect example of how to use some, maybe not use reform methods to democracy or political change, like the internet and Twitter and Facebook. And then I argued about if it was internet, Twitter, or Facebook, or if it was something else.
Sure.
Something like that.
You understand Emily's main point? So the authors are talking about this cosmopolitan democracy, right? And then they're talking about what is the path to get there. And one of the paths is these NGOs, these civil society organizations, including social media, Twitter, Facebook, right? And it played a big role in the Arab Spring. But the results were mixed, okay? And the results were mixed. How? Because
Didn't all work out that well.
right, because if you look, such as what countries?
Tunisia, Egypt, Syria, Libya.
Tunisia probably had the best result, right? They still have a democratic elected government. It's fairly unstable, but it's still there.
Yeah,
Okay.
still there.
But what's a bad example? Bad example would be countries like
Syria.
Syria, and also probably the most kind of like the disappointing example would be Egypt. Okay? Because Egypt's the biggest country in the Middle East. They had this big revolution, people's revolution, right?
Yeah.
But now it's just dictatorship and thousands of opposition party were massacred.
Yeah.
Okay? And think about what is how much of the fault lies in the student movement themselves.
You know what?
How much of the fault lies in the student movement, the demonstrators, the protesters.
Yeah.
Okay, that's why it's very important to give a very specific example. I guess one example that I'm thinking about is that you heard of what happened in Egypt, right? 2011, you had these big demonstrations, and who was president at that time? The old president was who? Come on, who was the old president? Right.
Yeah, Muldava, no.
Right, his host name Murabak.
Yeah.
He was like president for like 20, 30, long time, over 20 years. Okay? But the demonstrators said, you have to go, right? And so it kind of reminded me of like South Korea, the Philippines, right? Where you have people power and they overthrew these dictators. Okay? And then after you overthrew the dictators, both countries, Korea, Philippines, and then Egypt, they elected a new president, right? But what was the difference between Korea, Philippines, and Egypt? In Korea, Philippines, you elected a new president, and then what? And that was
fine.
well, that was it. I mean, you still had protests and demonstrations, but the president finished their term. Do you understand? So who was the new president in Korea after Chun Doo-hwan? He was who? Yeah, No Tae-woo, right? And then a lot of Hakseng, they love No Tae-woo or don't like No Tae-woo. A lot of people didn't like No Tae-woo. They thought, he's just a Chun Doo-hwan with more hair. Okay? I remember the joke. I'm very old. Okay? Chun Doo-hwan was bald. Okay, so they just said, No Tae-woo is just another Chun Doo-hwan with hair. Okay? But because he was elected, they accepted his legitimacy and they allowed him to finish his 5-year term. Right? Same thing with the Philippines. Well, how about in Egypt? Did he serve his 4-year or 5-year term? No! Because what happened after 1 year, the student demonstrators demanded that he leave. There was like 1 million people who protested against the president. And the military used that as an excuse, king to overthrow the president. And when the military overthrew the president, you had this big celebration, all these fireworks. Okay? And so in a way, like it shows that you cannot just like democracy doesn't mean the people can do whatever they want. Democracy means what? That you have to follow you have to follow rules, you have to follow contracts, you have to follow your agreements. Okay? In 2011, all the different factions promised that we're gonna have an election. And that means that whoever wins the election will be president for the next 4 or 5 years. That was the agreement. There was a contract. But then you broke it because you didn't like who was elected. Okay? Democracy doesn't mean that you always elect the people that you want. Democracy means that we follow these rules. we have these rules in place for deciding, for making decisions. Okay, and then as long as people follow the rules, we accept the decisions that are made, even if we do not like it. Right? And so because the Egyptian protesters, the students, the demonstrators, did not follow the rules, now Egypt, like, it's basically back to hosting Nuruban. It's just a matter of military dictator. So I thought that was the most disappointing example. Syria, they're just messed up. Okay?
That was disappointing.
Yeah, Syria just messed up, okay? But Egypt, that was the closest thing that we had to Korea, okay? And then I thought that, wow, after, at least our Korean students are kind of crazy and bitcha, but at least, they didn't try to overthrow the elected president. So I think, at least in the Korean case, the students will need to follow the rules, okay? Okay, so right. Okay, that's true. That's a good point. Okay, so the point is that in Iraq, like the president and the prime minister, it was very unpopular. What's his name? Yeah, Maliki, right? Right. But they let him finish his term, and then they used, if they follow the rules, replace him. Okay. Same thing with Pakistan, right? It used to be all like, we're having the same issue right now with Pakistan because you have a new prime minister who was elected, and now you have this guy named Imran Khan who's saying, "Get out!" Right? So again, so if you support democracy, support democratic rules, then in a way you have to support the concept. And so I'm hoping that Khan will lose, and he will not boost the new prime minister in Pakistan. Okay? So let's see. Okay, that was a good paper. Thank you. Say, yay, Emily. Okay. Okay. I guess that's basically it. Okay. So Friday we have what? Yes, we have team meetings, and then how many people are presenting on Friday? Just one or two, right? Okay. Okay. So who volunteered to present on Friday? Okay. Yeah, if you volunteer, that's fine. Email me the papers, and then again, my rule is if you email it to me by by dinner time, okay, the night before, I look at it, I give you a sample grade, okay. If not, then we'll just discuss it in class if you have time. So on Friday, I want to maybe go over the papers for maybe 20-30 minutes, and then I want to give you an hour for team meetings, okay. And then we have our next field trip on Friday. We're doing the GMAC. Yay! So the heading, she made reservation at sexy Wang Chun-li. Okay, that rhymes. Hip Wang Chun-li. And so you're meeting at 5:50. I think at Hanyang Plaza. Okay. Yes. Put that on your calendar. Okay. Any questions about Archie Boogie? Okay. Shh. Now, did everybody read Archie Boogie? You read it, right? So again, it's very simple concept, cosmopolitan democracy, citizens of the world, okay? I want to see interesting essays from you, how we can make that happen. What are some of the challenges and obstacles, okay? So I want you to make very simple, make a very interesting claim, such as this for example, looking at Egypt, this shows that people have to follow the rules. Or looking at North Korean refugees, we need to treat people as, we need to treat them as, we can treat them as either regular people, citizens, or as blood brothers. Okay, so give me interesting examples and essays. Is there any questions or comments you want to make? Yes. Why don't you come up? Okay. Shh. Okay, we got one more comment and then we're finished. All right. Thank you for coming out. What's your name?
My name is Hakyo.
Okay, Hakyo.
Yeah.
Okay. Ooh, Hakyo.
He must love Hakgyo. Okay, what's your comment or question?
My question is that when I'm thinking of writing essay, which I will do on this Friday,
Yes.
when I think of cosmopolitanism, I think there's different levels of analysis of how we consider the cosmopolitanism as a like European Union. There's a surely you can find the cosmopolitanism in the European Union, but it's classified as a European countries, not the European countries and Asian countries, and then all the difference in China, Japan, and us or many other countries in the Asian region is that they how to get together with Asian countries, which means there's a cosmopolitanism in the Asian region. So when it comes to the global level, there's all different stories on it, right?
Well, one step at a time. The basic idea of cosmopolitanism is citizens of the world, right? That we treat you as an individual citizen, as a human being, as opposed to a race. Okay? Just to defend the European Union, it's not just for Europeans. I think Europe has many different ethnic groups, right? White people, black people, Indian people. There's many different kinds of people in Europe. And at least within the European region, everybody is considered as an equal individual. Okay, and then they might say that we want to expand, but certain conditions have to be met. Like, other countries have to be more democratic. Okay, now what do you want? So in Asia, you're saying what? You're saying the countries are too divided. What's your claim?
That was a question. How do I think of cosmopolitanism as, like you said, common human rights, or the integration of individual countries, or is this more political and human rights? Human rights is kind of different level.
Well, I think. Well, my recommendation to you is just read a lot. Not read a lot, but read newspapers, read about things you're interested in, and then find one example that can be relevant to cosmopolitanism, right? So one example that we talked about a couple of weeks ago was the fishermen, right? Remember those fishermen from Indonesia who work on Korean boats? Right. And so if Korea really wanted to be cosmopolitan, then we would treat foreign workers, migrant workers, in what way? Yeah, that legally they would have the same legal rights as Koreans. Do you see? That they would have the same. We would treat migrant workers. We would give them the same legal rights as Korean workers. Okay, so there would be a legal implication for So that's one way to make a legal system more cosmopolitan. But also we can also change our social attitudes, right? Social attitudes means what? That it's not just the government and the law, but also people need to what? When we see migrants, when we see different ethnic groups in Korea, we should what? Yeah, we should see them as an individual human being. Okay, not see them as like Indian or Nepalese or Vietnamese, but try to get to know them as an individual. Do you see?